The walls sweated rust. Inside the hull of the K-159, every surface was damp to the touch, cold metal that flaked away beneath their gloves. It smelled of mold and oil and something deeper, something sour. A ship abandoned for 14 years does not die quietly. It decays in layers. And yet 12 men had been sent aboard, not to sail it, just to accompany it. They weren't officers. Not a single one was senior command. Most had never served on a submarine before. They were chosen because they were young, disposable. It was August 28, 2003. The K-159, a decommissioned Soviet-era nuclear sub, was being towed across the Barents Sea toward dismantling. It had no power, no functioning systems, barely any structural integrity. The only thing keeping it afloat were 2 jury-rigged pontoons lashed to its sides. Engineers had warned about the condition of the hull. But the brass said move forward. The sailors boarded with 1 flashlight, 1 emergency radio, and a single breathing apparatus. They were told it was routine. Outside, the sky darkened. By midnight, waves rose 4 meters high. The pontoons began to shudder under the strain. Steel cables snapped. 1 pontoon broke free entirely. The other strained against the K-159's battered hull like a dying limb. Inside the sub, water trickled down the bulkhead seams. Then came the groan. One of the men shouted, ran forward, only to find the torpedo compartment flooding. There were no pumps, no power. The internal doors hadn't been sealed properly. They had no lifeboats, no dry suits, no alarms. They were trapped, in the dark, inside a corpse. Above them, the storm lashed the sea. On the surface, a tugboat fought to keep control, but the sub was slipping behind, too heavy, too broken. The radio went dead. At 1:20 a.m., the K-159 pitched sharply. The deck tilted. Salt water poured in. 1 sailor made it to the conning tower, clung to a rope. The rest didn't. 9 men went down with the submarine. 3 were pulled from the water. 1 later died from exposure. The others vanished into blackness. When it was over, the K-159 rested 200 meters below the surface, its twin nuclear reactors still armed. Russia didn't announce the disaster until hours later. Even then, they downplayed it. No full list of names, no public mourning. Just a note that an old vessel had gone down. The families of the dead were kept waiting. Some learned of the sinking from television. Others waited days for word that never came. One mother described calling Naval Command over and over again, only to be told, "We have no information." And when the answers finally came, they were wrapped in cold, bureaucratic language. Unavoidable. Bad weather. A training deployment. Words that meant nothing. One admiral later admitted they had no contingency, no evacuation plan. The crew had been told to guard the vessel from vandals, as if vandals, not the sea, posed the greatest threat. The K-159 was radioactive waste with a hull like wet paper. Divers would later describe the wreck as a crumpled beer can, collapsed inward under pressure, with sharp edges where men had once stood. There was no funeral at sea, no permanent marker. The wreck remains on the ocean floor, silently leaking radiation into the Arctic. Each year, international scientists warn that the sub's decaying reactors could breach. If they do, the fallout would poison thousands of square miles of ocean. Fisheries, coastal villages, entire ecosystems. But cleanup has been deemed too costly, too risky, too inconvenient. So the K-159 stays where it is, rotting in silence. This wasn't a combat loss. There was no enemy, no explosion. Just decay, just orders, just a whisper ignored in the dark until the sea took everything. And no one came. Thank you for listening to the Sunken Ledger. Subscribe for more true stories from the depths.